Mayor live, and here we are, one day before a very significant day that needs to be remembered. It's the Feast of Kings, or among Catholics and Christians of Armenian nationality, it's it's Christmas. Did you know that? It's also the Epiphany of our Lord Jesus Christ. Very, very important religious day in America, and in America, it's lost a lot of its significance, even among religious people, even among rather religious Catholics and Christians, and but it's a very significant holiday in South America. I learned that the first day that I was mayor of New York, because the first thing I was told was that my house, I walked in, we didn't move in for about 10 days. I had two children and a wife, and wait, what, 6 blocks away. But they had to make changes, and a good deal of the utensils and other things were missing. I will make no accusations about that, but you can figure out why. I was preceded by a Democrat. Um, and So we took a while to move in, but I was told on the 6th of January, so it was already now the 3rd or the 4th. On the 6th, we can have a big giant party, the Three Kings party. And it was gigantic. And I hadn't realized how big a deal. I mean, I knew the Epiphany, and it was a day off from school because I went to Catholic school and I used to serve Mass on it. And I could have told you the whole history of it, but I didn't realize it was such a big deal. But this is a great big feast day. So tomorrow, people should remember. Um, I think the real significance of it is that the Magi, the kings, the three kings, right, coming from the East, which means in those days they would have called it the Orient. I don't know if that's woke or politically correct to use the word Orient any longer. Uh, if it isn't, screw you. Uh, they they came to honor and to celebrate the Messiah, because he was a Messiah for all. And of course, that was a difficulty even for some of the apostles who were Jewish. I mean, after all, Jesus was Jewish. Jesus died Jewish, having to some apparently, looked like he reformed the Jewish religion. But as he explained in his sermons and discussion, he was there to for the whole world, Jew and Gentile. And this was the first really major symbolism of it. And to me, that's the great significance of the feast of the Epiphany. And it's so now they're gonna try to make it. Now they're gonna try to make it. What is it? The day. So now they're going to try to make it a big thing forever and ever, because of the attack that was worse than Pearl Harbor, right? Let me see if I can find some of those quotes. The attack that was worse than Pearl Harbor, right? Let's see. So here's the way this has been described by Democrats, including in some cases the present demented person in the White House. This was worse than September 11. That got me particularly upset, and as well as many others who lived through and almost died on September 11, and those who remember good friends having died and everything else. This was worse than September 11, and then when they wanted to really ratchet up, it became worse than Pearl Harbor. In many ways, I thought September 11 was worse than Pearl Harbor, but Pearl Harbor was certainly horrible. We even had people saying it was worse than the Civil War. And now they want to make it into a day on which Biden can get up and attack Trump for wanting to be a dictator, when in fact that's exactly what Biden is. Everything they've done about Trump from the very beginning, including the Russian collusion, has been fraudulent, dishonest, attempting to obstruct justice, the proper administration of the government, attempting to unseat a lawfully elected president. They haven't done one thing that has proven to be true. So now I want you to watch this miserable career criminal in the White House with an extraordinarily criminal family. Watch what he says. You know, I kind of get noticed when they mention me. Watch what he says about me today, and see if you don't think that the whole thing involved here, from the very beginning, going back a few years, was a setup so that he could make attacks like this. Watch it, and I'm going to show you why that's true.
Trump lost recount after recount after recount and state after state. But in desperation and weakness, Trump and his MAGA followers went after election officials who ensured your power as a citizen would be heard. These public servants had their lives forever upended by attacks and death threats for simply doing their jobs. In Atlanta, Georgia, a brave black mother and her daughter, them from their homes, unleashing racist vitriol on them. Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, who was just hit with a $148 million judgment for cruelty and defamation that he inflicted against them. Other states.
Okay. Let me tell you about the history of this lawsuit, and now you'll see what I'm talking about. But before I do that, I'd like to show you the credibility of this miserable human being that unfortunately happens to be our president because some of you voted for him. Watch this.
A situation where we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what is happening with his buddy, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that is Russian, that is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me.
Well, they sure know you, Joe. They got everything on you. They got the rest that I don't have. They know about the other perverted acts that you and your family engaged in. I only know about some of them. I mean, you guys are not just criminals, you're damn perverts. You took down, oh my gosh, 50 million, 31 million from China, and you're in the White House? Are we crazy? We have someone who took 31 million from China, and people can't figure out if that's a bribe? Yeah, China gave it to him for the hell of it. They just gave him 31. They handed his degenerate drug addict son $31 million out of the goodness of their heart. And the crookedest man in the Ukraine, it gave you and your son, well, originally two $5 million bribes, and then probably a total of about 12 million, unless we can get those offshore bank accounts opened, which a woman in Ukraine is ready to do. But your Stasi, your secret police, known as the FBI, have never interviewed her. Like they've never done anything about you, even though they could have put you in jail 4 years ago before you even announced for president. I had this evidence 4 years ago, Joe, and you and I know something, and we'll know it, and we'll take it to our deathbed. And I am so damn proud of it, and you hate me for it. I'm the one who originally brought out your criminal involvement in Ukraine, not just as allegations, but with witnesses already interviewed and on tape. Not like the phony charges your lying, creepy congressmen make and get away with it because of our crooked press. I had 5 witnesses the day I said that you took bribes in Ukraine. I had a piece of paper showing you and your son were involved in money laundering. Yeah, 3 million, not pennies, pennies for you. And that came from Latvia. I had you on tape admitting to a bribe. I had you dead. I had you more dead than anybody I prosecuted, including the congressman and the others that I prosecuted successfully. And I got to tell you, the cases that I prosecuted, I never lost one. And most of them were a hell of a lot tougher than yours would have been. You convict yourself. Now you're dead with your false exculpatory statements. I never knew anything about my son's foreign dealings. Joe, you left a message on your son's phone machine indicating that you knew the details of everything that was going on in China in your own voice, you lying creep. You're just a massive liar. And when you got up there and said that I was a Russian pawn because of the hard drive, you had known for months that the hard drive was in the hands of the FBI, nicely concealed, completely validated. Except I didn't get cleared until 16 or 17 months later. You were straight out lying. Not only were you lying, it was part of a plot like this is. The plot was the 51 prostitute intelligence agents who just would sign anything you put in front of them. Earmarks of Russian collusion. Come on, Panetta. You're not more of a man than to come forward and apologize for that? It disgraces you to have signed that. The rest of you, I had some respect for him. The rest of them, I consider them the reason why our intelligence was so bad for the last 20 years. I'd almost expected them. Panetta surprised me because he always struck me as a honest guy. You can't be honest and sign that thing because I would never have signed that for anyone, including Trump, because I couldn't examine it. I couldn't examine it. I wouldn't know what I was signing. Neither do they. But that's who they are. They're dishonest. Now, the case that he's making the big deal about, right? That case was brought by a lawyer who was a partner of his son, Hunter Biden. Oh, it gets better. The lawyer also was a lawyer for the crookedest company in Ukraine, the company that paid the massive multi-million-dollar bribe to the Bidens and to many other public officials and to the president of the Ukraine. He was a lawyer for them. So when they had to figure out some way to, jam me up because, gosh, I know more about them than anyone. Without me, you would not have known about his original criminality. I brought it out, and you probably don't remember this. I brought it out in 2019, in the beginning of 2019, before he ran for president. I brought it to the FBI, and they buried it. They left a woman in the Ukraine waiting to be interviewed who claimed she could open offshore bank accounts for the Bidens. We were even informed, myself and my lawyer, Bob Costello, that she was in fear of her life. They didn't do a damn thing about that. They didn't do anything about the fact that Shokin was poisoned. The case they brought against me was a setup so they could do this, what they just did. The case was in Georgia. The two women, I could play the tapes for you right now of one of them counting ballots 4 times. I wasn't allowed to play them at the trial. She'll probably put me in jail if I play them. God forbid you should find out the truth, because we don't live in a free country any longer. We're free as long as we do what the Biden regime requires us to do, which is to submit to the lie that the election of 2020 was legitimate. Submit to the lie that these women didn't do multiple counts of the ballot. Submit to the lie that Atlanta, Georgia, didn't engage in election fraud. It would almost be inconsistent in who they are if they didn't engage in election fraud. They're one of the most crooked cities in America, like Philadelphia. You can't have an election without fraud in Philadelphia. At the upper level of your party, it is rotting. And in the big cities, it's been rotting for maybe 50 years. It's the reason that we have people in what we call ghettos, because your party profits from it. You steal the social welfare money that they're supposed to get by doing contracts with crooked contractors who kick money back to you, very often your relatives. And you're fighting this election to the death because, God forbid, Trump gets elected. It's all going to come out. Prosecutor in Ukraine told me that. He said to me, Mayor, when I worked in Ukraine for quite some time with law enforcement, he said, we really worry about you bringing this out because they're not going to let you bring it out. It involves more people than you know. I said, well, tell me. They said, we're not going to tell you. For your own good, we're not going to tell you. But I can guarantee you, if it comes out, it's going to go much broader than just the Bidens. Why do you think they're fighting you like they're fighting you? Even some of the people in your own party. Why do you think so? Why do you think McConnell is sitting on the 2 senators that want to investigate it? I said, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. But there he is, right there. That's a case he fraudulently, dishonestly produced with a lawyer that was close to his son, that made money from the crooked company that they all made money from, who's doing about $10 million worth of legal services for nothing, and who has served me with discovery demands that I think are greater than AT&T got. And because I didn't comply with one group having to do with my personal finances, largely because my records are in disarray because the FBI has seized them and my companies had closed, and the judge used it not to punish me. She used that as the basis on which I was liable. What does the fact that I don't produce certain records have to do with the fact that that proves that what I said about them was untrue? And I don't get a chance to put my evidence in, which includes video recordings of their doing what I said they were doing. And then when I try to put those in to mitigate the damages, I'm not allowed to do it again. In other words, I was allowed no defense because I was in front of a Biden judge. This is a judge who you don't have to guess about. Her history with regard to January 6th was abominable. She was the chief judge, and she even called the other judges in and told them they weren't giving high enough sentences. I've never heard of a judge doing that. Ever. What the hell she was doing in my case and not recusing herself, I don't know. And why do you think the Biden people didn't bring the case in Georgia, where it happened, and brought it to the District of Columbia? Because Georgia is crooked. But they don't own the court quite like they do in the district. Huh? You can see with the January 6th people, They own the court. The court of the District of Columbia has disgraced itself, not just with my case, but in all the things they've done. The way in which they treated the way Steve Bannon, the way in which they treated Navarro, and then, of course, the much worse way in which they treated all of those people. What is it, 1,000? I don't know, 1,000 people, the jerk said. 1,000 people were arrested. The most expensive investigation in American history. Gee, maybe if we hadn't spent all that money, we wouldn't have as much crime in America. Considering the fact that we spend all that money and time on that, and we also go after Catholics who go to Latin Mass, when do we have time for the Chinese spies? Well, maybe that's one of the deliverables for the 31 million. We'll be right back. Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. So a little update on the election, ladies and gentlemen. The president is President Trump. I mean, the president is leading the demented one by big numbers against Hispanics. Among blacks, what has happened is Biden's numbers have gone down by about 25%. Trump's numbers have moved up very slightly. I expect they're going to move up quite a bit more. But among Hispanics, it's actually, Biden's numbers have gone down, but Trump's numbers are soaring. And it looks like across the board. Remember, when we say Hispanic, it's a little bit unfair, not unfair, but it's a little bit confusing because it breaks down into so many different groups of people. And they do have slightly different cultures, and they do have somewhat different political leanings. Puerto Rican, Cuban, Dominicans, people from Venezuela, people who are very much affected by the experience of communism. They will tend to be more right-wing because they see the dangers of where Biden is taking them. I mean, those people come up to me and tell me, I never thought this would ever happen in America, that you'd become a communist country. They'll say it. You become a communist country. Having watched tonight, I am sure I'll get a lot of that. And so it's a 5% lead in most polls, but a couple go up even more. And it's basically in the swing states as well. It's not just a national lead. It's a lead about everywhere that you have Hispanics. And I think it's very, very simple. This open border thing is not to help Hispanics. It's to help the cartels get the fentanyl in. It's to help the human traffickers get the poor young women in. It's to help China make a fortune on fentanyl. And he owes China, we know that. It's to help the other drug dealers get their drugs in. It's to get in, it seems to me, as many people as Iran, who he seems to be in love with, want to bring in, or the Islamic terrorists. We know that the cartels have a 20-year relationship with the Islamic terrorists. It's not as if they're going to get to meet each other today. We also know that the big money the cartels make, they make from the terrorists and the big-time drug dealers. You see, all those people coming over, some of them can be legit, some can be criminals. We just don't know because we don't know who the hell they are, and we don't find out. So it's going to stand to reason that some are legitimate and some aren't. Some are perfectly fine people trying to find a way to make a living or trying to go on welfare in large part because when we talk about the old immigration, people who came here in those days didn't know anything about dependency. They didn't know anything about welfare programs and somebody else giving you money. America didn't do that. So when they made the choice to come here, there was a certain natural selection that went on. We were getting some pretty brave people. We were getting people that were willing to come across the ocean to a place that spoke a different language, a different culture, and nobody was going to take care of them. They'd have to be confident they could take care of themselves and their families or their little groups, whether they were German or Italian or Irish or Jewish or whatever, right? There wasn't the child welfare program and the programs where you can make more money on welfare that Biden set up than working, which is why we have 10 million jobs that are not filled. We weren't a socialist society. We are now officially a socialist society by every measure that you measure a socialist society. We are, to people that are without work, the first thing that's going to occur to them is welfare, not work, because they're doing a damn good job of destroying the work ethic. And the people coming over here are not coming over here looking for jobs. They're coming over here to be put on the welfare programs. Only 2% of the people that came to New York applied for the jobs when they became available. And when they got attracted here, Adams said things like, you'll get health care, you'll get free college, you'll get free. The word free was in capital letters. The word work was down here.
Well, print.
You don't see them coming over with tools, right? You don't see them come over even with luggage. I guess they expect to be given their clothes. But the main thing is you do not know who they are. I can look at them and say, they're the biggest criminals in Guatemala. You can say they're the best people in Guatemala. Neither one of us knows what we're talking about. And the worst part of it is nobody on the other side checks them for that. All they have to do is say, I want asylum, and they get paroled. That's it. We don't check.
That's right, Mayor. And before we continue, maybe we'll just take a quick second to shout out to our friends at the America First warehouse in Ronkonkoma. As we speak, Mayor, and check the screen, they've sent me some pictures. They have a live viewing audience. There they are.
Hello, everyone.
So if you want to say hi to them, they're there right now watching us live on the big screen.
I do want to say hello to them. There's
a picture from just a few minutes ago. You're up on the TVs there.
This is the hope of America there at the First America studio, First America warehouse. And Joe the Box, my good friend, is running it. And his enthusiasm, I'm sure, is infecting the entire place. His love of America, his understanding of how important this election is, and we'll be out there very, very, very soon. We get reinvigorated when we come there. You know, this is a difficult battle. There's no escaping that. It's more difficult than it's ever been. They have done everything they can to stop Trump, and they've done everything they can to stop me, and they haven't succeeded. But they've done a lot of damage. I would be foolish not to tell you that. So your support and your help goes a long way to keep up the fighting spirit that we're going to need right through November. So we take our country back. But most importantly, we reestablish our way of life so that, you know, it's clear that parents make the decision for children, not the state, which is the Biden approach, which is also the approach of Karl Marx and Adolf Hitler. Anybody wants to start mentioning Adolf Hitler, a lot of similarities between him and Joe Biden. None between him and Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the president of the United States for 4 years, not a dictator, not an anything. He didn't prosecute Hillary Clinton. This guy thought he should. But in fairness, he thought Americans don't do that. Well, he didn't count on anti-Americans like Biden. I want you just to think of how totally obvious this is and corrupt. 4 different Democrat hacks, they're all Democrats, have indicted Trump to go to trial this year. I don't think you're going to find any criminal in America that is slated for 4 trials this year. And if they were, and I represented them, I can guarantee you I'd get the cases dismissed. Well, I can guarantee you I'd get all but one probably turned over until the next year on the basis of the fact that you're trying to railroad my client. How can I prepare for 4 trials in 1 year? You're not trying to give him a fair trial. That's your job as a prosecutor is not to convict my client. Whoever told you that? Your job as a prosecutor is to give my client a fair trial. You do 4 in 1 year. You have announced to the world, I don't give a damn about a fair trial. I just want to jam him up so he can't become president. In fairness, it's a complete violation of due process in each one of the cases. And some judge should have the guts to dismiss all of them and say, start over again. Because these are infected by a motive that has made them completely completely unable to be handled in a federal court, which is supposed to be a court of law and a court of justice. This is a political weapon you've created, a political trap that you've created, so that he's on trial instead of running. Not only that, he's on trial and can't prepare because there are too many trials. And you signal that, crooked Attorney General Garland, when you pick hitman Jack Smith to do it. You look at Jack Smith's record, he's got a record as a miserable, stinky, unethical prosecutor. He did this to the governor of Virginia, and the case got reversed by the Supreme Court. 9-0 because of him. Now, you're the Attorney General. You got this very important case. You want to make sure it's dealt with fairly. You pick Jack Smith? Or do you give away your motive by picking Jack Smith? Do you give away what a stinking, rotten partisan you are? What a stinking, rotten Attorney General you are? And then do you allow all of us to say, thank God we didn't put you on the court? Because you'd have been one hell of a corrupt judge. Because you are one hell of a corrupt Attorney General. This is a very, very important year. And I'm so glad to see all of you there. I really am. And we'll be out there very, very soon with our good friends. God bless you. And we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Our device is something that you can plug into your television, and now you can use your television as a social television type experience. So in the Portal universe, you can watch your favorite content creators' videos, live streams, music. We also have TV subscriptions as well.
TV subscriptions.
You can also
regular channels, all the sports.
Right, you can actually cut your cable from your cable subscription and get QUX TV on our QX TV boxes, and you can pay half the price that you're currently paying for your cable television subscription, and you can get all the best premium TV channels and more. I mean, it's really, there's so much on there, Rudy. I mean, you've seen it.
No, I've seen it and I use it, and it's good. I mean, it's great. It's just exactly the same except for half the price. Plus, nobody is finding out what I'm watching, and that's not being reported to anybody.
Right, so you have absolute privacy using this device, which you don't have on other devices out there currently on the market.
This is absolutely great. QUX.TV is how you can find out about it. QUX.TV.
Use promo code Rudy to receive $30 off.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with you. And the Epstein case is starting to open up, isn't it? It really is. First of all, on the investigation at the prison, that was under the supervision of an attorney general who has questions than any attorney general I can think of for corruptly sitting on the hard drive, particularly during the time that we television, when Biden was attacking not just me, but his boss for being a Russian pawn. He had the absolute proof that that wasn't true. And he concealed it. And then you want to know why we didn't trust his analysis of the election? One was because there was an unexplained obstruction, illegal obstruction by him. Any number of times that he was brought information on Biden that was never pursued. And every time I could check an election challenge where he went and told the president there was nothing to it, he never investigated it. In fact, I had U.S. attorneys tell me they were told not to investigate. So I don't know what side he's working for. It sure isn't the side of justice. But now it turns out, or we find out, that his father may have employed Epstein. His father was the head of a school in Manhattan. Epstein began teaching there the fall after the father left, but was hired while the father was there. Epstein was totally unqualified for the job to teach math and physics and was gone in a year. And I think gone because of his ineptitude as a teacher. So what the hell was he hired for? And then his father has a book that some people believe makes unnecessary references to sex with young boys. Now, this may all turn out to be nothing or wrong, but why didn't he reveal it? Why didn't he recuse himself? Actually, if you go back, Barr said he would recuse himself because his law firm had represented Epstein, but nobody knew about the father thing. That may be nothing, it may not be nothing, but by not having revealed it, he makes it something, huh? And then when you look at how dishonest he was with the hard drive, it just adds one more complexity to a case where here's what you can say about it. People say to me, Giuliani, you know that prison unlike anybody else. And I do. Did he commit suicide? Was he encouraged to commit suicide? Or did somebody kill him? And I can tell you any of the above. And the tragedy is it was never investigated anything close to properly. And that is on Barr because he was the attorney general. This should have been investigated backwards and forwards. These names should have been out some time ago. Looks like the big Democrat contributing Pritzker family has got a bit of a problem here. One of them, one of them was one of the richest, according to the sworn testimony, was having sex with a underage girl. Now, is it true or not? I don't know. All I can tell you is they're making a big deal about Trump being there, and there's not only no evidence that he had anything like that, there's actual denials of it. There's testimony that he never had a massage. There's testimony that he was only aboard the plane from Palm Beach to New York as kind of a lift home, that on several occasions his family was with him. There is no evidence found of his involvement with him ever in going to the island. He's mentioned 4 times, and Trump has mentioned Clinton has mentioned 82 times, except in the newspaper, Trump has mentioned 82 times, and Clinton has mentioned 4 times. Who is the one to have more likely been involved? There's affirmative testimony that Trump wasn't involved. Finally, there's very, very substantial testimony that I have and he has that he threw Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago before any of this came to light, before anybody knew about it, because he was hitting on a 14-year-old girl and he was harassing the staff, particularly the massage staff. There's also evidence that I guess one of the things that Epstein provided you for, maybe it was a come on, was a massage. He never got a massage. Trump never did. Now, the Democrat hero, Willie Billy here, was getting massages. Here's one, right? See there? See that one there? But that's not really this. I mean, there's a direct testimony that he was having sex with young girls. And there's testimony that he was on, not just on Lolita Express, going back and forth home, but going all over the world, hanging around like Epstein's best buddy. There's a painting of Clinton dressed up as what, a woman or something that Epstein has. And there's evidence that he went to Pedophile Island. Now, many of these people never went to Pedophile Island, including Trump. And it would seem to me those people are probably being treated very unfairly, being lumped in with the people who did. Because if you know how any pervert criminal like this operates, he's not going to let people in on what he was doing unless he has them incriminated. In other words, he'll keep you out of Pedophile Island because if you get to Pedophile Island, you're going to figure out that he's a perverted piece of crap. You're going to see the young girls around. Well, he better take you there if he's got you jammed up as somebody who shares that perversion with him. And he's got a nice little tape of it. Now, his brother, Mark, does not believe that his brother was taping people or extorting from people. He's either, he's absolutely out of his mind. He's absolutely covering for his brother. Of course, he was taping people. And of course, he was, the unexplained cash is clearly extortion money. It's just too big a temptation for a total degenerate like this not to be doing this. And of course, the evidence against Prince Andrew comes left and right, doesn't it? But he's already paid like $20 million to settle it to the Jeffrey woman, who is one of two that supplies the evidence against Bill Clinton, including the statement that Epstein told them that Bill Clinton likes young girls. But you're not reading much about that. You're just reading about, Trump got a couple of rides from him, never was involved in any of the suspicious criminal activity, and did something nobody else did. He threw him out. So remember, they're as dishonest as they can be, and anything they can do to hurt Trump, they will do, including this one. But I don't think this one will work. And now we'll take a brief break, and when we come back, we'll have Kara with us.
Body is an amazing chemical laboratory. When you give it the right chemistry, it functions the best. Balance of Nature is the ultimate whole fruit and vegetable chemistry.
Get 35% off your first order by using discount code RUDY.
Oh, that's where I watch you on Instagram.
Okay, here we are.
All right, now we're back.
Does Rob have that footage though?
We're live.
Well, I have with me, our friend, Kara Castronova, who's the co-host of Wise Guys on Newsmax. She's an investigative reporter. She's on Newsmax all the time, reporting, anchoring, and she has been on top of January 6th since day one, really.
Yeah. Well, I was there on January 6th, and I knew right away that it was something very wrong that day.
So I was very suspicious coming home, and I had a really bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. And then I found out 4 people died, and the news was misreporting it. So
It's a very odd circumstance, isn't it? That they would misreport a a death, have that big ceremony,
right.
have that big ceremony, and it turned out that the guy died of a stroke.
Of a stroke, yeah, and they buried him, I believe, in the way they do somebody in the military.
Yeah,
They laid him out in Washington D.C.
that's disgusting. It's like exploiting him
Right, it's
to hurt
his
Trump.
death, and I think that
They would do anything to hurt
they would
Trump.
do anything, anything to hurt Trump, and it's sad because 4 other people died that day that nobody knows about. The news really never reported on that, and they were all Trump supporters. But if it was, police or something else like that, they would have reported on it. So
Yeah, we did an interview that's going to come up right after this on America's Mayor Confidential. If you hit subscribe, is that going to be on right away, Ted?
That'll be on right at 9.
And then we're going to continue and do one more that we put on later. But I got to ask you a different question, and that is, you just did a fabulous, and it's getting a lot of attention, a fabulous group of pieces for Newsmax that discovered a lot of support for Donald Trump in the Bronx and in the South Bronx.
yes, in the South Bronx,
Now,
I was shocked.
I have to tell you, the Bronx is the most solid Democrat. I mean, this place is crazy Democrat, right? 7-1. The Bronx is the most solid.
It is. It's actually, I believe close to 90% of people voted for Biden last election, but less actually did than in 2016. So Trump actually gained support in the Bronx in 2020, and now it looks like he's going to gain much more support because everybody I spoke to on the street, the majority of the people, I'd say 90% of them, said they were voting for Trump.
We put some on here, but how many people? Can you give us a rough estimate of how many people you talked to?
Well, the first day I talked to a lot of people, and I was standing in front of a Target store, and people just wanted to talk to me because they see a camera and they're very friendly in the Bronx, and everybody was coming up to me. And I was asking them really about the economy and how it was hitting them. And then I never thought that they would start saying they supported Trump. I wasn't there to talk about that. All of a sudden, they're like, we need Trump back. And I was like, you could see my.
So they
shock in
brought it
their
up,
eyes.
and you said to yourself, "Where am I?"
Right. And I started asking more people, who are you going to vote for? And they're like, Trump, Trump, Trump. I'm like, are you going to vote for Biden? No, Trump. And I was like, if I only I could have aired, I had to edit that down to 2.5 minutes. I had a lot of footage and I had to make some really severe cuts because there was such funny stuff in there. And a lot of it has a lot of profanity in it. So it couldn't be aired.
Some of it got close. I could see some.
You had to bleep out the F Biden because that's how they feel about him. And even when I was interviewing people and I mentioned Biden's name, people walking by on the street would be like, F Biden, F Biden. They have Biden's derangement syndrome. They don't like him. They hate him in the Bronx.
And what do you discern as the main?
The economy.
The
The economy. They hate what he's done. They hate how he's destroyed it. People can't live up there. The economy obviously hits people that live in poverty the most, and the Bronx has a lot of poverty in it. They have a very low average median income. I think it's less than $20,000. So, when they have to make a choice between buying eggs and milk, they're going to start harboring resentment towards the person who is very much largely responsible.
And then
for it.
any time anything coming from him or his administration, they're being told how well they're doing.
Right, and they don't like that because, people in the Bronx,
Bidenomics is
they're
supposed to be
street smart.
Bidenomics is supposed to be a positive.
Right, they
In
don't.
fact, it's a negative.
Yeah, I said one of the questions I had for them was, Biden and his press secretary are saying Bidenomics is really helping Black and Brown communities. What are your thoughts? And they would look at me like, "Are you serious? Like, it's not helping us. Like, F Biden." Like that was the common. I'm sorry to invoke.
Well, we want to get an idea of it.
But they were offended that they would say that. They felt like, "Are you kidding me? Do you think we're that stupid? We're not that dumb. Like the economy
I
stinks."
think so. You see, I think Biden on that, and even what he did today with Trump is Hitler and Trump is a dictator, and I think he feels that if you say it often enough, it's the big lie,
Right.
and he did it. I mean, he believes he was successful last time doing that,
Right.
lying. So they just lie, and they get the press is on their side, so the press doesn't dissect it.
Well, people are seeing through it, and
They don't need the press when you go buy eggs and you go buy gasoline and you go buy bananas and you
Right.
go buy, and all of a sudden there's a lot more money out of your pocket. Who the hell cares what the New York Daily News says?
And they don't care that Trump was arrested. Like that is the last of their concerns. Like, it's not.
They know that it's bullshit.
They do, and they understand that this is persecution by the government. A lot of people in the Bronx and in these type of communities feel like the police target them, and they feel like the same government is targeting Trump. So it doesn't phase them at all that he's been arrested the way that the Democrat Party thinks that it's going to. I think it's actually a plus.
I thought so too when we got applauded by the prisoners. And
Yeah, you got applauded by the prisoners
so
in
is President
Atlanta.
Trump,
Yeah, but
yeah.
like it's street cred. It's endearing. I love it. I mean, I love the.
I think they bought the fact that it was a frame.
They do. They know. They know.
And then today, Biden's acting like it's real.
Well, Biden doesn't know what's going on. We both know that, and he'll keep the jig up until the very end. And he's afraid. He's afraid if Trump gets in, like you said, that Trump didn't go after Hillary Clinton because he tried to be classy about it. He didn't want to go after a political opponent. But this time around, he knows that that's not going to be the case. And Biden has committed so many crimes, even just in this administration alone, let alone before this. He's committed so many crimes, what he's done to the political prisoners. There's certainly stuff that will be uncovered that he's done. I know there is. And all it will take would be a very small investigation, just scratch at the surface, and the crimes will come out. So I do feel that Biden and his administration feel like they have to hold on to power no matter what, because they will be exposed in 2024.
Too many files, too many things can come out. Trump would have no choice but to investigate it for the good of the republic.
Right.
But also, I mean, he'd be non-human if he didn't want it investigated and straightened out.
Well, at this point, they've done so much damage to the people in so many ways, between the censorship, between the political persecution, between destroying the economy, between selling us out to foreign nations. It's real crimes against the people. So now Trump is obligated, I feel, in 2024 to investigate Joe Biden.
I don't think there's a choice. You have to faithfully execute the laws if you're president. And you look at what he's doing down on the border.
Right. The border. That's another thing.
There's no border.
Right.
There's no such thing as a border. The United States does not have a border. And that is a violation of the law by the president for not faithfully executing the law.
Right.
And that's why if the Supreme Court would ever decide that Colorado case was correct, Republicans could remove Biden in Republican states.
Right. They could. That's actually a pretty good point.
Just take them right out.
Wow, that's a good point. I mean, should do that.
They're depending on the J6 report as their evidence of insurrection.
Well, most of January 6th documents, as you know, were burned.
Yeah.
And shredded.
It didn't prove an insurrection.
It didn't prove an insurrection. They tried very hard to with TV and primetime TV directors.
Rely on my documents. It does prove bribery.
Right.
If you can rely on the J6 report, you can rely on my documents, and you can say, look at this big report. Look at that money laundering transaction in Latvia. Oh yeah, sure, okay. Or look at all that money from China, and then look how he gave up the air base 400 miles from China. You don't think that was aiding and comforting the enemy, insurrection?
It was. And I think that in 2024, finally, everything that's going to come out that, that will vindicate you and, show that.
What he did with China is mind-boggling.
It is.
It's absolutely mind-boggling.
But not many people are paying attention to this, unfortunately.
What do you think? Those people were, though, weren't you surprised that they knew as much about it as they did? I was.
Where?
Up in the Bronx.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, people feel it in their everyday lives. They feel it. Everybody says Trump did so much more for us. When Trump was president, everything was good. We had money, we had food. Now we don't. So it's like they're feeling on a level of like their everyday lives.
Yeah, well, we didn't have 2 wars either.
And they're mad about that. They said when this is one of the biggest points a lot of the people made was when Trump was the president, we had world peace. We didn't have any wars. There was world peace. And he wasn't giving our money away to foreign countries.
So you can disqualify a candidate under the 14th Amendment if it applies to the president. It doesn't mention president. Yeah. And it says that the Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation.
Right, the Congress, right?
Congress has not passed any legislation.
It was the Secretary of State that in Maine that unilaterally just decided.
Congress never gave her the power to do it, which means she doesn't have the power to. But in any event, you can do it for giving aid and comfort to the enemies. Giving aid or comfort to the enemies. And he's given a lot of aid and comfort to China. Wow. And he's gotten obscene amounts of money from China. Or, and this stuff about did he get it or not? Your family getting it and it influencing you is bribery. And how can you say he wasn't influenced by it when he's done things with China that would be irrational would be irrational for any American president in this day and age to give up one of the best air bases in the world. Just give it up, abandon it 400 miles from the border of China. You are giving China a massive advantage against us militarily.
I wonder what his, what was his reason for doing that? Did he give any reason? Like,
There's no reason.
we're trying to save on budget.
Milley, who should take everything on his uniform now that and rip it off. Milley, who was going to warn China if Trump attacked him. Why the hell he wasn't prosecuted for that, I don't know. But Milley first said, it's reported that would be a terrible strategic mistake. But then afterwards he said, it has no strategic value.
Right.
Which of course really makes us idiots. I mean, a 12-year-old with basic deductive reasoning can figure out that a base that's only 400 miles from your enemy has strategic value.
Right.
Why the hell are we looking for bases now 1,000 miles from them if they have no strategic value? I mean, these people lie, but that's aiding and comforting an enemy.
And he owed them. It looks like he owed them something.
How about giving money to Iran, and Iran wants to destroy us? That's not aiding and comforting it.
Another example, right?
There's a lot of examples.
Why isn't Prince Obama in jail for giving the terrorists cash?
Same thing.
If you or I gave cash to terrorists, we'd go to jail. The country of Iran, is the biggest supporter of terrorism in the world, and both Obama and Biden have given them billions of dollars.
Right. So I guess hopefully Trump will look into that in 2024. Do you think he would?
I don't know. I wish he would. I wish he would look at Obama.
He just doesn't have a special,
I think Obama
right.
is the pinnacle of this.
So you think he's the brains behind Joe Biden? Who's the brains behind Joe Biden? Is it Obama? And if so, is there any brains behind Obama? Is it Michelle Obama? I don't know. Like I think about this.
I always thought that the idea that Obama was real bright was completely exaggerated.
Right. I mean, everybody says he's a really smart guy, but a lot of people say he's actually not. So
he's very smooth.
He's very charismatic
and very well educated by the communists.
Right.
He was. I mean, he was very well educated by the communists, which we just ignored in the election because it's like, I mean, here's a reason why you should be disqualified for president no matter what. The day that Biden said, my vice president is going to be a black woman, the party should throw you out as being a racist.
Yeah.
How can you limit your
and the Supreme Court?
How can the Supreme Court doesn't know what a woman is?
Well, exactly. But Biden said he was going to only nominate a black female.
The reason why she shouldn't have been.
It's crazy to me. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to say that someone should put a Chinese individual, but I'm Asian. Like nobody says, there's never been an Asian Supreme Court justice. So how come nobody cares about the Asians? Or Biden doesn't. I mean, it's not a normal thing to do. That's all I'm saying. As
most
it's
discriminated groups
it's offensive.
Were in this order, Asian and Jewish in the last 10 years.
Yes, in other words, the social engineering has already been established that people are going to have scared feelings about those races.
Well, because you have meritocracy coming up against communism. Right. And Asians are very, very high performers. Yeah. And they penalize for it.
Yeah.
Which means I am correct. If that is actually happening, we've become a communist country. We don't just call ourselves that. And then when you have people making more money on welfare than working, we have a socialist country. And when you have as many people that are dependent and we use it as a magnet to come here, we're a socialist country. Trump needs to be elected not to stop us, but to take us back.
Right.
To get us
scale it back to
capitalist country again.
Already happened.
Based on meritocracy. Yeah, I'll appoint the best person to the Supreme Court. I'll pick the best person for vice president.
And contrary to popular belief, people in the Bronx do not really care that as much about social welfare benefits as people think. They just want a good economy and they want a chance to make
Without a
money.
job.
And people, right? People assume they want free stuff, and they don't. Like that's what I spoke to them about. They don't. So that's a fallacy.
That's why I got cremated, beaten to hell by the New York Times for workfare. But to this day, people come up to me and thank me for it.
Yeah. How's that?
And now they've done away with it completely. Adams doesn't even know what workfare is.
Right.
God forbid you say work, he gets nervous.
Lose my power.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much, Kara. If you want to follow up particularly on January 6th, and particularly with the memorial of it tomorrow, in which the Democrats will go hysterical, right? I don't know, they may actually make it worse than the end of the world.
Insane.
Yeah, it's worse than the end of the world. I love to watch them do it because they're such horrible liars. But we already have a segment that you can go right to right now, and then we will talk about the new case that you were telling us about.
There's 2 new January 6th lawsuits.
Okay.
And one more shout out to our friends at the America First Warehouse. There's about
Thank you, America.
right now.
Thank you. And if you subscribe, we'll be back very shortly. God bless you, and thank you, Joe. God bless America.
Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common